A mother's desperation, the rain hammered against the cracked window of the small Chicago apartment as Natalie Brooks stared at her phone screen, her fingers trembling with exhaustion and frustration. 3 days. 3 days since Emma's medicine had run out, and the pharmacy refused to fill the prescription without payment up front. The digital clock on her phone read 11:47 p.m. But sleep was impossible when your child was coughing in the next room. Natalie pulled her worn cardigan tighter around her shoulders, the threadbare fabric doing little against the November cold seeping through the walls. The radiator had been broken for weeks, and her landlord kept promising to fix it tomorrow. Always tomorrow. She glanced toward Emma's bedroom door, listening to the shallow, labored breathing of her 5-year-old daughter, the weight of single motherhood pressed down on her shoulders like a physical burden. 2 years since Jake had walked out, leaving behind only broken promises and mounting bills. He was supposed to send money this week. He always promised. He always disappeared. The message that changed everything, Natalie's thumb hovered over Jake's contact. She had texted him 17 times in the past 3 days. No response. But tonight felt different. Tonight, desperation made her bold. She began typing, her anger translating into sharp, accusatory words. I know about the money from the Romano job. Emma needs her medicine now. If you don't send $500 by morning, I'm calling them directly and telling them where you've been hiding. It was a bluff. Natalie had overheard Jake mention something about the Romano construction project. Months ago, during one of his rare visits, she assumed it was a contracting job, maybe under-the-table work. She had no idea who they actually were. But Jake didn't need to know that. Her finger hit send before doubt could stop her. The message delivered. 1 check mark. 2 check marks. Read. Natalie exhaled, setting the phone down on the chipped coffee table. At least he'd seen it. Maybe this time he'd actually respond. Maybe this time he'd remember he had a daughter who needed him. She stood up, stretching her aching back, and walked to Emma's room. The little girl was curled under 3 blankets, her brown curls plastered to her feverish forehead. Natalie pressed her lips to Emma's temple. Still too warm. Mommy's going to fix this, baby, she whispered. I promise. The response back in the living room, Natalie's phone buzzed. Her heart leaped. Finally, Jake was responding, but the message on the screen made her blood run cold. Unknown number. Who is this? Natalie's hands began to shake. She grabbed the phone, checking the message thread. Her stomach dropped. The number was wrong. In her exhaustion, she had mistyped Jake's contact. The last digit was off by 1. Another message appeared. Unknown number. You mentioned Romano. Explain now. The authoritative tone sent ice through her veins. This wasn't Jake. This was someone else entirely. Someone who knew what Romano meant, and it clearly wasn't construction work. Natalie's fingers flew across the screen. Wrong number. I'm so sorry. Please ignore that message. The response was immediate. Unknown number. Your name. Your address. You have 30 seconds. Terror gripped Natalie's chest. She thought about lying, about throwing the phone across the room, and pretending this never happened. But something in the commanding tone of those messages told her that whoever was on the other end already knew who she was. She typed back with shaking hands. This was a mistake. I was trying to reach someone else about money he owes me. I don't know anything about any Romano. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Unknown number. Jake Morrison owes you money. It wasn't a question. Somehow this stranger already knew. Natalie's breath caught. How did they know Jake's name? She hadn't mentioned him. Another message. 618 Ashland Avenue, apartment 4C. Stay there. Someone is coming to talk to you. The arrival Natalie's apartment suddenly felt smaller, the walls closing in. She ran to the window, pulling aside the faded curtain. The street below was empty, just wet pavement reflecting the orange glow of streetlights. But as she watched, a black SUV turned the corner, moving slowly, deliberately. Then another, and another. 3 identical vehicles, dark and menacing, pulled up in front of her building. Men in suits emerged, their movements coordinated and professional. This wasn't some random gang. This was organized. This was serious. Natalie's mind raced. She had to protect Emma. She ran to her daughter's room, scooping the sleeping child into her arms. Emma stirred, coughing weakly. "Mama?" she mumbled. "She, baby. We're okay. We're okay." But they weren't okay. Natalie knew it with every fiber of her being. A soft knock came at the door. Not aggressive. Not threatening. Just 3 measured taps that somehow felt more terrifying than... If someone had tried to break it down, Natalie stood frozen in the hallway, Emma in her arms, staring at that door like it was the entrance to hell itself. The knock came again. Patient. Certain. A voice followed. Deep and controlled. "Miss Brooks, my name is Dominic Rousseau. I believe you sent me a message tonight. We need to talk about Jake Morrison and what he told you about my family." Rousseau. The name hit her like a freight train. Not Romano. Rousseau. She hadn't misheard Jake all those months ago. She had misunderstood entirely. The Rousseau family. Even someone as disconnected from Chicago's underworld as Natalie had heard whispers. They controlled the South Side. They were the people you didn't cross. The name you didn't speak carelessly. And she had just threatened to expose one of their operations face to face with. "Danger, I know you're frightened," the voice continued from the other side of the door. "But I'm not here to hurt you or your daughter. I just want to talk. If I meant you harm, Miss Brooks, we wouldn't be having this conversation." The logic was cold, but sound. If they wanted to hurt her, the door wouldn't have stopped them. Natalie's neighbor, Rita, peeked out from across the hall, her elderly eyes wide with concern. Natalie shook her head slightly, a silent plea for Rita to stay inside and stay safe. Taking a shaking breath, Natalie shifted Emma to one hip and reached for the deadbolt. The metal felt cold under her fingers as she slowly turned it. The chain locked next. Finally, the doorknob. The door swung open to reveal a man who didn't match Natalie's image of a mobster. Dominic Rousseau was tall, probably in his mid-30s, with sharp features and dark eyes that seemed to catalog everything in a single glance. His tailored charcoal suit was impeccable, his presence commanding, but not overtly threatening. Behind him stood a mountain of a man, clearly a bodyguard, and beyond them. She could see more men in the hallway. Dominic's eyes moved from Natalie to the sleeping child in her arms. Something flickered across his face. Not quite sympathy, but recognition, understanding. "They come in?" he asked, his voice softer now. "Just me. Vincent will wait in the hall." Natalie stepped back, unable to find her voice. Dominic entered, and she closed the door behind him, leaving the bodyguard outside. The apartment suddenly felt ridiculously small with this man in it. He seemed to fill the space not with size, but with sheer presence. "She's sick," Dominic observed, nodding toward Emma. "Bronchitis?" Natalie managed to say. "The medicine is expensive." Dominic's jaw tightened slightly. He reached into his jacket, and Natalie flinched, but he only pulled out his phone. "Dr. Patricia Hammond. She's the best pediatric pulmonologist in Chicago. She'll be here within the hour." "I can't afford that," Natalie whispered. "I'm not asking you to pay," Dominic replied, already typing. "Your daughter needs medical care. That's not negotiable." The casual way he commanded resources, the assumption that a top specialist would drop everything at midnight because he called, it reinforced everything Natalie feared about who this man was. "Why are you helping us?" she asked. Dominic looked up from his phone, meeting her eyes directly. "Because despite what you may think, I'm not a monster, and because you have information I need about Jake Morrison." There it was. The real reason? "I don't know anything," Natalie said quickly. "I barely see him anymore. He's just my ex who owes child support. And why did you mention my family's business in your message?" Natalie's mind scrambled for an answer. "I overheard him on a call months ago. He mentioned Romano, and I thought it was a construction company. Tonight I was desperate, and I threatened to call them about his location. It was a bluff. I swear I don't know anything about your business." Dominic studied her for a long moment, those dark eyes seeming to pierce through every defense she had. Finally, he nodded slowly. I believe you. But that doesn't change our problem. What problem? Jake Morrison stole from me. Documents, names, financial records. He's been running for 3 weeks, and we've been looking for him. Your message tonight tells me he's still in contact with you, or at least you know how to reach him. Natalie shook her head vigorously. I don't. He never responds. I sent that message to what I thought was his number, but I got it wrong, and it went to you instead. Show me. Natalie carefully shifted Emma to the couch. Laying her down gently before retrieving her phone, her hands trembled as she pulled up her message history. Dominic took the phone, scrolling through the unanswered messages to Jake. 17 of them, each more desperate than the last. He hasn't responded to any of these, Dominic observed. That's what I've been trying to tell you. Dominic handed back the phone, his expression thoughtful. But he will. Men like Jake, they always come back when they need something. And when he does, you're going to help me find him. I can't do that. He's Emma's father. He's a thief who put you and your daughter in danger the moment he decided to betray my family. Dominic's voice hardened. There's another family looking for Jake, the Petrovs. They're Russian, and they don't have rules about women and children. If they find out Jake has been in contact with you, if they trace that message you sent tonight back to this address, they won't knock politely. The color drained from Natalie's face. What are you saying? I'm saying you're already involved, whether you want to be or not. The question is whether you're going to accept my protection or take your chances with the Petrovs. A knock at the door interrupted them. Vincent's voice came through. Sir, Dr. Hammond is here. Dominic opened the door, and a professional-looking woman in her 50s entered, carrying a medical bag. She went directly to Emma without preamble, her experienced hands gentle as she examined the sleeping child. Natalie watched in a daze as this stranger, summoned in the middle of the night by a crime boss, efficiently diagnosed her daughter and produced medication from her bag. Bacterial infection, manageable with antibiotics. Dr. Hammond said, her tone brisk but kind, I'm leaving a week's supply. She should improve within 48 hours. Keep her hydrated. And call me if the fever spikes above 102, she handed Natalie. A business card with her personal cell phone number, then packed her bag and left as efficiently as she'd arrived. Dominic watched Natalie clutch the medication like a lifeline. You have until morning to decide, he said quietly. Come with me, where I can protect you both, while we locate Jake. Or stay here and hope the Petrovs don't find you first. Natalie said bitterly. No. Dominic agreed, heading toward the door. It's not. Vincent will be outside your building tonight. Think about what I've said. He paused at the threshold, looking back at her. For what it's worth, Miss Brooks, I am sorry you got caught in this. But Jake made his choices, and now we all have to live with the consequences. The door closed behind him, leaving Natalie alone with her daughter and an impossible decision. Through the window, she watched the SUVs pull away, except for one that parked across the street. A silent sentinel, a reminder that her old life had just ended, and a dangerous new one had begun. Emma coughed in her sleep, and Natalie administered the first dose of antibiotics with shaking hands. The medicine that might save her daughter's health had come from the most dangerous man in Chicago. As dawn approached, Natalie sat in the dark apartment, holding her phone, staring at Jake's contact. Wherever he was, whatever he had done, he had dragged them into something that could destroy them all. And Dominic Rousseau, the man who commanded fear and respect in equal measure, was offering protection with one hand while demanding cooperation with the other. By sunrise, Natalie knew she had no real choice at all. She would have to trust the devil she'd just met to protect her from the devils she hadn't. She began packing a bag for Emma, her hands steadier now with grim determination. Whatever came next, she would face it. For Emma. Always for Emma, the morning after dawn broke over Chicago, with harsh winter light streaming through the apartment windows. Natalie hadn't slept. She'd spent the night watching Emma breathe, administering medicine, and packing their belongings into 2 worn suitcases. Every sound in the hallway made her jump. Every car passing outside made her peer through the curtains. The black SUV was still there. Parked across the street like a patient predator, Emma woke around 7, her fever finally breaking. The antibiotics were working faster than Natalie had dared hope. Her daughter's eyes were clearer, her breathing easier. "Mama, I'm hungry," Emma said, her voice still raspy but stronger. Natalie forced a smile, smoothing her daughter's tangled curls. "Let's get you some breakfast, sweetheart." As she poured cereal into a chipped bowl, her phone buzzed. Unknown number, but Natalie knew exactly who it was. Dominic Russo. "Have you decided?" Natalie's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She thought about running, disappearing into another city, changing their names. But she had maybe $300 to her name, no family to turn to. And now she knew that dangerous people were looking for Jake, people who might find her instead. She typed back, "When do we leave?" The response was immediate. 1 hour. Pack only essentials. Everything else will be provided. Natalie looked around the small apartment that had been their home for 3 years. Threadbare furniture, peeling paint, broken radiator. But it was theirs. Safe. Familiar. Now she was voluntarily walking into the custody of a man. He controlled an empire built on fear. But Emma was getting better. That was all that mattered. Crossing the threshold exactly 1 hour later, a knock came at the door. Natalie opened it to find Vincent, Dominic's massive bodyguard, standing in the hallway. Up close, he was even more intimidating, built like a heavyweight boxer with a face that had clearly seen its share of violence. "Miss Brooks," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "I'll carry your bags." Rita peeked out from her apartment across the hall again. "Natalie, honey, is everything all right?" "These men, they were here all night." Natalie walked over, lowering her voice. "I'm fine, Rita. Just some trouble with Emma's father. These people are helping me sort it out. I'll be gone for a few days, maybe a week." Rita's weathered hand gripped Natalie's arm. "You be careful, sweetheart. And you call me if you need anything, you hear?" Natalie hugged the old woman, fighting back tears. Rita had been the closest thing to family she'd had since moving to Chicago. Vincent efficiently loaded their meager belongings into the SUV. Emma clutched her stuffed rabbit. Buttons, staring wide at the big man and the fancy vehicle. "Is this a limousine?" she whispered to Natalie. "Something like that." "Baby." The drive took them out of the run-down neighborhood where Natalie had scraped by, through downtown Chicago and into an area she'd only seen in magazines. Massive estates hidden behind tall walls and elaborate gates. Old money and new power living side by side. They turned into a private drive, stopping at gates that swung open automatically. The estate beyond took Natalie's breath away. A modern mansion of glass and stone, surrounded by manicured gardens even in late November. Security cameras were visible everywhere, and men in suits patrolled the grounds with barely concealed weapons. "Welcome to Blackwood Estate," Vincent said, pulling up to the main entrance. A gilded cage to the front door opened before they reached it. A woman in her 60s stood there, elegant in a simple gray dress, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her face was kind, but her eyes were sharp, missing nothing. "You must be Natalie and Emma," she said warmly. "I'm Grace, the house manager. Mr. Russo asked me to get you settled." The interior was breathtaking. Marble floors, soaring ceilings, artwork that looked like it belonged in museums. Emma's eyes were huge, taking in everything. "Is this a palace?" she asked in an awed whisper. Grace smiled. "Not quite, sweetheart. But it's very nice, isn't it? Come, let me show you to your rooms." They followed her up a curved staircase to the second floor. Grace opened double doors to reveal a suite that was larger than Natalie's entire apartment. A king bed dominated one room, and through another doorway, a smaller bedroom had been set up with a child's bed, toys, and books. "This is for Emma," Grace explained. Mr. Russo wanted her to be comfortable. The bathroom connects both rooms, and there's a playroom down the hall with more toys and games. Emma ran into the smaller room, delighted. Natalie stood frozen, overwhelmed. "I know this is frightening," Grace said quietly. "But you're safe here? Mr. Russo takes his word very seriously. If he promised to protect you, he will." "You've worked for him long?" Natalie asked. 15 years? I've seen him handle situations that would break lesser men. He can be ruthless with his enemies, but he has honor, especially when it comes to women and children. It was meant to be reassuring, but the word ruthless stuck in Natalie's mind. He wants to see you after you've settled in, Grace added. I'll watch Emma. She'll be perfectly safe with me. The study. An hour later, Natalie found herself walking through the mansion's corridors, following Vincent's directions to Dominic's study. She'd changed into the cleanest clothes she had. Feeling shabby despite her best efforts, the study was a room of dark wood and leather. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined with volumes that looked actually read, not just decorative. Dominic stood by a window overlooking the grounds, speaking quietly into his phone. He wore dark slacks and a white dress shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. More casual than last night, but no less commanding. He ended the call when he saw her, gesturing to a leather chair. Please, sit. How is Emma? Better. The medicine worked. Thank you for sending the doctor. Children shouldn't suffer for their parents' mistakes. He poured 2 glasses of water from a crystal decanter, handing her one. I need to be honest with you about what we're facing. Natalie's stomach nodded. Go ahead. Dominic pulled out a tablet showing her surveillance photos. Jake, looking haggard and paranoid, entering what looked like a cheap motel. The timestamp was from 2 days ago. We've been tracking him. He's moving every few days, staying in cash-only places. But he made a mistake 3 weeks ago. He stole a hard drive from my office, documents containing financial records, names of people, line my organization, details of operations. Why would he do that? To sell to my competitors. The Petrov family offered him $500,000 for that information. Jake took their advance payment and then ran with both their money and my files. Natalie's hands trembled. So both families want him dead. The Petrovs definitely do. I want my property back first, then we'll see. Dominic's voice was cold. But here's what you need to understand. Jake contacted someone yesterday. A mutual friend of his mentioned that he asked about you and Emma. He wanted to know if you were okay. He never cared before. Guilt or strategy, I'm not sure which. But he'll reach out eventually. When he does, you're going to convince him to meet with you. Natalie shook her head. He won't fall for it. Jake's not smart, but he's paranoid when he's in trouble. You'll tell him Emma is sick. That you need money for her treatment. He may be a coward and a thief, but according to his history, he does have a weakness for that child. It was true. Jake had been a terrible partner and worse father. But the few times he'd shown up, he genuinely seemed to care about Emma in his broken way. And when he shows up, Natalie asked quietly, We'll handle it from there. You mean you'll kill him? Dominic's jaw tightened. I mean, I'll recover what's mine and eliminate a threat to my organization. What happens to Jake depends entirely on what he's willing to give up and who else he's betrayed us to. Natalie felt sick. I can't do this. I can't set him up to die, no matter what he's done. Dominic leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. Let me paint you a picture, Natalie. The Petrovs are old-school Russian mob. When they find Jake, and they will, they'll torture him for days to find out what he did with their money and my files. They'll break every bone in his body. And before he dies, they'll ask him about everyone he cares about. He'll give them your name, your address, Emma's school. They'll come for you both. Not because you know anything, but because that's how they send messages. The blood drained from Natalie's face. With me, there are rules, Dominic continued. Boundaries. Children are off limits. Women who aren't part of the life are protected. The Petrovs don't have those rules. Alexei Petrov once killed a man's entire family, including his grandmother. Because the man stole $20,000? You're trying to scare me? Trying to make you understand the reality you're in? Jake put you here. I'm offering you a way out. An unexpected Elia knock interrupted them. Vincent entered, followed by a younger man Natalie hadn't seen before. He was perhaps 25, with an easy smile that seemed out of place in this world. Boss, got the phone records you wanted, the young man said, then noticed Natalie. Oh, sorry, didn't know you were in a meeting. Natalie, this is Tommy Chen, my tech specialist. Tommy, Miss Brooks is our guest. She'll be staying here while we locate Jake Morrison. Tommy's expression shifted to understanding. The ex-boyfriend who stole the files. Got it. He turned to Natalie with surprising warmth. Your little girl is adorable, by the way. I saw her in the playroom with Grace. She said, I looked like a prince from her storybook. Despite everything, Natalie felt a small smile tug at her lips. That sounded like Emma. Tommy grew up in this life, Dominic explained. His father worked for mine. He understands what it's like to be surrounded by this world as a child. He can help Emma adjust while you're here. I'm good with kids, Tommy offered, and I promise nothing bad will happen to her here. Mr. Russo doesn't just protect people, he actually does it right. There was genuine respect in Tommy's voice, even admiration. It reminded Natalie that despite the violence and crime, Dominic commanded loyalty that seemed to go beyond fear. The phone records showed Jake's been using burner phones. But he slipped up. Tommy continued, pulling up data on a laptop. Called his mother 2 days ago from a number we've been monitoring. She lives in Milwaukee. You think he's there? Natalie asked. No, but she might know where he is. Or he might contact her again. Tommy looked at Dominic. Want me to set up surveillance? Do it. And Tommy, keep this quiet. I don't want the Petrovs getting wind of any leads before we do. Tommy nodded and left. Dominic turned back to Natalie. His mother. Would Jake tell her where he is? Natalie thought about it. Maybe he was always a mama's boy. But she's not well. Dementia. Half the time she doesn't remember who people are. Then we wait for him to call again. In the meantime, you and Emma are safe here. Grace will help you with anything you need. Uncomfortable truths that evening, Natalie sat with Emma in their suite, watching her daughter play with toys that cost more than a month's rent at their old apartment. Grace had brought dinner, food prepared by a private chef that made Natalie's simple cooking seem laughable. Emma was happy, healthier already, completely unaware of the danger swirling around them. To her, this was an adventure. Staying in a beautiful house, with kind people. A soft knock came at the door. Natalie opened it to find Dominic standing there, changed into jeans and a black sweater. He looked younger, less intimidating. May I come in? I wanted to check on Emma. Natalie hesitated, then stepped aside. Dominic entered, and Emma looked up from her toys. Are you the prince who lives here? She asked with childish directness. Dominic's stern expression softened into something almost resembling a smile. No, just a man with a big house. What are you playing? Hospital. Buttons is sick, and I'm the doctor making her better. Dominic crouched down to Emma's level, a gesture that surprised Natalie. That's very kind of you. Doctors are important. They help people. Like the lady doctor who helped me last night, Emma said. Mama says she was very good. Yes, she was. And you're feeling better now? Emma nodded enthusiastically. The medicine tastes yucky, but it works. Dominic stood, meeting Natalie's eyes. Can we talk outside for a moment? They stepped into the hallway, leaving the door slightly open so Natalie could still see Emma. She's resilient, Dominic observed. Children often are. She doesn't understand what's happening. To her, this is all just new and exciting. That's a blessing. Let her have that innocence while she can. Dominic's voice held an unexpected note of sadness. I wanted to tell you that Jake's mother received another call tonight. He asked about you specifically, wanted to know if you'd contacted her. Natalie's heart raced. What did she say? She told him you'd called last week, looking for him, asking for money. Which is true, according to her phone records. He seemed agitated, worried. The call was too short to trace, but Tommy's working on it, so he does care, in his way. Or he's paranoid that you'll give him up. Dominic's expression was unreadable. Either way, he'll reach out to you soon. When he does, you need to be ready. I still don't know if I can do this. Dominic was quiet for a moment. Let me ask you something. If the Petrovs find Jake first, and they come for you and Emma, what will you do? How will you protect her? The question hung in the air, brutal in its simplicity. I'll run, hide, something. With what money? What resources? They have networks across the country, across the world. You can't hide from them, Natalie. Not alone. He stepped closer. but you can hide behind me. My protection, my resources. All I ask is that you help me find Jake before they do. Then you'll kill him anyway. Maybe, or maybe I'll offer him a choice. Work for me, pay back what he stole through years of service. Disappear to another country where neither I nor the Petrovs can find him. There are options beyond death. Why would you offer him that? Dominic glanced through the doorway at Emma, still playing innocently with her toys. Because that little girl deserves a chance to know her father isn't a corpse in the river, because you've been through enough. Because sometimes mercy is stronger than vengeance. The words surprised Natalie. She'd expected a monster, but the man in front of her was more complex than that. Dangerous. Absolutely. Capable of terrible things without question, but not without some code, some line he wouldn't cross. The call 3 days passed. Natalie and Emma settled into a strange routine at Blackwood Estate. Grace was wonderful with Emma, and Tommy often stopped by to play games or show Emma magic tricks with cards. Vincent, despite his intimidating appearance, turned out to have a soft spot for children and could often be found letting Emma put temporary tattoos on his arms. Dominic was less present. Consumed with business Natalie didn't ask about. When she did see him, usually at dinner, he was polite, asking about Emma's health and ensuring they had everything they needed. It was almost possible to forget. This was essentially captivity. However luxurious, on the fourth morning, Natalie's old phone rang. The one from the apartment, the number Jake knew. She'd been carrying it constantly, waiting. Unknown number. Her hands shook as she answered. Hello? Heavy breathing. Then Jake's voice, paranoid and strained. Natalie, is this really you? Jake. Her voice came out as a whisper. Are you okay? Is Emma safe? My mom said you'd been calling. Natalie's mind raced. She could warn him, tell him to run. Or she could do what Dominic wanted. She thought of Emma laughing in the playroom. Safe. Healthy. Protected. Emma's sick. Jake. Really sick. The bronchitis turned into pneumonia. I need money for the hospital bills. The lie came easier than she expected. God, is she okay? Can I talk to her? She's sleeping. Jake, I need $3,000. The hospital won't do the treatment without it. Another lie. Please, I know you have money. Your mom said you came into some... Silence. Then suspiciously, who told you I have money? You did. Months ago, you said you had a big job coming. I'm desperate, Jake. Our daughter needs help. More silence. Natalie could practically hear him thinking, trying to figure out if this was a trap. I can get you money, he finally said, but I can't come there. It's not safe for me in Chicago right now. Then meet me halfway. There's a rest stop off I-94, about an hour from the city. I can get there tomorrow morning, alone. Yes, alone. Jake, please. Emma needs this. Another pause. Okay, 10 a.m. But Natalie, if this is a setup, if you brought anyone into this, I swear it's not a setup. It's our daughter's life. He hung up. Natalie stood there, phone in hand, trembling. She'd just set up the father of her child. The man she'd once loved, however briefly. The man who'd given her Emma. The door opened. Dominic stood there, having clearly been listening. You did well. I feel sick. No. But you may have just saved your daughter's life. And possibly Jake's, if he's smart enough to cooperate. What happens tomorrow? Tomorrow, we end this. One way or another. That night, Natalie couldn't sleep. She stood on the balcony outside their suite, watching the stars. Wondering how her life had spiraled so completely out of control, Dominic found her there around midnight. He didn't speak, just stood beside her in the cold November air. I had a sister, he said finally. Younger than me by 5 years, Gabriella. She was everything good in our family, untouched by the business. Smart, kind, wanted to be a teacher. Natalie glanced at him. His face was hard, but his eyes held old pain. When she was 19, one of my father's enemies kidnapped her. They wanted leverage, wanted my father to back down from a territory dispute. He refused. They killed her anyway. sent pieces of her back to us over 3 weeks. Natalie's breath caught. That's when I learned that in this life, mercy is often mistaken for weakness. But I also learned that protecting the innocent, especially women and children, is the only thing that keeps us human. He turned to look at her. Emma reminds me of her. Same curls, same laugh. I won't let anything happen to her, Natalie. Or to you. That's not strategy. That's a promise. For the first time, Natalie saw the man beneath the crime boss. Someone who'd lost, who'd suffered, who'd built walls around himself but still had cracks where light could get through. Thank you, she whispered. Dominic nodded and turned to leave, then paused. Get some sleep. Tomorrow will be difficult. The rest stop was exactly as Natalie remembered from road trips years ago. Concrete building with vending machines, bathrooms, and a few picnic tables. Cars came and went, travelers oblivious to the drama about to unfold. Natalie sat at a picnic table, alone as promised. Emma was back at the estate with Grace, safe and unaware. But Natalie knew she wasn't really alone. Dominic and his men were positioned around the area, watching, waiting. A battered Honda pulled into the parking lot at 10:02 a.m. Jake got out, looking around nervously. He'd lost weight, grown a scraggly beard. He looked like a man running on borrowed time. He spotted Natalie and approached cautiously. Where's Emma? With a friend. I wasn't bringing her out in this cold when she's sick. Jake sat across from her, eyes darting around. You look different. Better. Like you've been eating actual food. I got a job with better pay. Another lie in a growing collection. Jake, do you have the money? He pulled an envelope from his jacket, but didn't hand it over. 3,000, like you asked? But I need something from you first. What? I need you to hold on to something for me. Just for a few weeks, until things calm down. Natalie's stomach sank. What things? Jake reached into his jacket again, and Natalie tensed. But he only pulled out a USB drive. This is insurance. People are after me. Bad people. And if anything happens to me, you need to get this to the police. What is it? Information. Names, numbers, evidence of crimes. It's my life insurance policy. If they kill me, this goes public and everyone goes down. Natalie stared at the USB drive, understanding flooding through her. This was what Dominic wanted. What the Petrovs wanted. All of it, on this tiny piece of plastic. Jake, what did you do? What I had to do to survive? Look, I'm not proud of it, but I got in too deep with some people. I thought I could make quick money, get us out of debt, be a real father to Emma, but it went wrong, and now everyone wants me dead, including Dominic Rousseau. Jake's face went white. How do you know that name? Natalie's hand shook. Because I accidentally texted him instead of you last week. Because he showed up at my apartment and told me everything you did. Because he's the reason Emma got medicine and got better. Jake stood abruptly, looking around wildly. Is he here? Did you set me up? Natalie, tell me you didn't set me up. I had no choice. The Petrovs are looking for me, for Emma. Dominic offered protection in exchange for helping him find you. You stupid. Jake cut himself off, backing away. They're here, aren't they? Where? Where are they? Black SUVs appeared from multiple directions, boxing in the parking lot. Jake ran, but Vincent appeared seemingly from nowhere, blocking his path. 2 other men grabbed Jake, forcing him to his knees. Dominic walked calmly across the parking lot, toward them. Natalie stayed at the picnic table, tears streaming down her face. Jake Morrison, Dominic said, standing over him. You've caused quite a bit of trouble.
Please,
Jake gasped. I have money. I can pay you back. Just let me go. The money you stole from the Petrovs. That's already spent. And my files? Dominic held out his hand. Vincent searched Jake roughly, finding the USB drive and handing it to his boss. No, that's my insurance. You can't. I can, and I did. This is everything? Yes, that's all of it. I swear. I didn't copy it, didn't give it to anyone else. Dominic looked at Natalie. She was crying openly now, unable to watch, but unable to look away. Please don't kill him, she said. Not in front of me. Emma, she needs to believe her father is alive somewhere. That he might come back someday, please. Dominic studied her for a long moment, then looked back at Jake. You have a daughter who just asked her mother to spare your worthless life? That's the only reason you're still breathing. He gestured to Vincent. Take him! Wait! What are you doing? Jake struggled. Where are you taking me? Away? You're going to disappear, Jake. New identity, new life, somewhere very far from here. You'll work off your debt to me, and if you ever try to contact Natalie or Emma, if you ever come back to this country, the deal is void and you die. Understand? Jake's eyes widened. You're letting me live? I'm giving you what you don't deserve, a second chance. But it comes with rules. You break them, you die. It's that simple. They dragged Jake to one of the SUVs. He looked back at Natalie one last time. Tell Emma I'm sorry. Tell her I loved her, in my own broken way. Then he was gone, the SUV driving away with him inside. Dominic walked over to Natalie, who was sobbing into her hands. He sat across from her, giving her space. He's alive, Dominic said quietly. He'll stay that way if he follows the rules. You did the right thing. I betrayed him. You protected your daughter. Those aren't the same thing. Natalie looked up at him through tears. What now? You have what you wanted. No, you and Emma are free. New identities if you want them. Money to start over anywhere you choose. Or you can stay in Chicago under my protection. The choice is yours. Just like that, we can go. Just like that. You kept your end of the deal. I keep mine. Natalie wiped her eyes, processing. She'd expected more complications, more demands. But Dominic was actually offering freedom. The Petrovs will be dealt with. Without Jake to chase, and without my files to sell, they have no leverage. I'll make sure they understand you and Emma are off limits. That's a conversation between their organization and mine. They sat in silence for a moment, the November wind cold around them. I don't know where to go, Natalie admitted, or what to do. Dominic stood, buttoning his coat. You don't have to decide today. Take some time at the estate. Figure out what you want. There's no rush. As they walked to the remaining SUVs, Natalie realized her life had changed forever. Jake was gone, not dead, but might as well be. The threat was neutralized. And somehow, impossibly, she and Emma were safe. But safety had come with a price. And Natalie wasn't sure she'd ever fully pay off that debt to Dominic Rousseau. Whether he demanded it or not, aftermath 2 weeks passed at Blackwood Estate. Jake was gone, disappeared to some remote location Dominic wouldn't specify. Better if you don't know, he'd said. What you don't know can't be used against you. The USB drive had been destroyed after Dominic verified its contents and ensured no copies existed. The Petrov family had been handled through negotiations Natalie wasn't privy to, involving territory concessions and financial compensations that meant nothing to her but everything in the criminal underworld. Emma thrived. Her health fully recovered. She'd become a fixture around the estate. Grace doted on her like a grandmother. Tommy taught her card tricks and basic coding on a kid-friendly tablet. Even Vincent, the stoic bodyguard, smiled when Emma asked him to push her on the swing set that had appeared in the garden. Seemingly overnight, Natalie found herself in an odd limbo. Technically free to leave, but where would she go? Back to a broken-down apartment and minimum-wage jobs? Forward to an uncertain future alone? And then there was Dominic.